Mr. Speaker.
Alistair Scott.
Well, how can anyone take that member seriously as far as being a decent and reasonable opposition? He had absolutely nothing constructive to say. All he could talk about for most of the speech was my background, my business background, my reasonable and practical background, because that member had nothing to say. He just had a crack at everyone here around Kiraroo eating. There was no policy about business, how we're going to grow the economy, how we're going to get people into work, how we're going to continue to focus on employment. Mr. Speaker, last night I spoke alongside 3 other MPs in this room at a National Council of Women, a Graduate Women of Wellington and Zonta meeting regarding domestic violence and the economic effect on domestic violence. And I want to quote something from one of the authors, Kuiaku and Snively report, to quote, employment is a key pathway out of domestic violence. Staying in employment is critical to reducing the effects of violence. Mr. Speaker, employment is the key. It is a powerful antidote to many of our social ills: depression, alcoholism, gambling addiction, all serious issues. Employment brings pride to the family, it gives independence, it motivates people, it gets people out of bed in the morning, and it gives a social and supportive environment to those people in employment. And of course, the role models that it creates for our next generation. So, Mr. Speaker, high employment is a result, it's a measure of the success of an economy. We know, Mr. Speaker, we have low numbers of people not in employment, education or training, lower than ever. Unemployment is heading downwards. It'll be below 5% within a couple of years, and we've heard Minister Bennett talk about South Island unemployment being at 3.8%. These are numbers and facts that we want to talk about. The opposition have no interest in facts. They're all rhetoric and do not understand the way markets work. Because, Mr. Speaker, having a flexible marketplace that we have today is sending the signals, the appropriate signals, to the players in the marketplace. Because despite the doom and gloom from the opposition, we do have a flexible and resilient economy. Fitch have just given us a re-rating of stable and positive going forward. So despite the drought, despite the low dairy payouts, we're still expecting a 2.8% GDP growth over the next 4 years. So that's because the dairy farmers and the businessmen and the people on this side of the House understand how markets work. We understand that prices go up and that prices go down. Dairy farmers understand that there are price fluctuations. Wine growers understand that there are price fluctuations. Since 2009, Mr. Speaker.
Order.
Since 2009, Mr. Speaker, the oil price in US dollars has doubled and halved. This is what happens in the real world. Dairy prices have gone up and now they're coming down. Should be no surprise. And there's no surprises on this side of the House, but it's all news to the opposition. Mr. Speaker, this flexibility in the marketplace is important because it allows the economy to reallocate resources to where they are required. And Mr. Speaker, the markets are working as demonstrated by the lower New Zealand dollar. So the New Zealand dollar has weakened on the basis of the strong US dollar, and today the exporters of any of our products, whether it be sheep and beef or logs, who also understand volatile markets, those producers also are now receiving 25% more for every foreign dollar earned. That's a good thing. That's the way the market works. Flexibility and resilience. Mr. Speaker, from the other side, they're saying, do something, do something, do something. But what practical, reasonable and understandable policies do they have? Not a single policy change. Not a single option. Subsidies, tariffs, growing money on trees. Mr. Speaker, money does not grow on trees, it must be earned.
Order. Sue Moroney.